On February 23, 1945, Private First Class Tadashi Yamamoto crouched inside a concrete bunker on Mount Suribachi, Iwo Jima, his hands trembling as he secretly recorded observations that would have meant certain execution if discovered by his commanding officers. "The Marines are not human," he wrote. "They do not die like other men. Everything we were taught about American weakness was a lie." Through his firing slit, he had just witnessed something that completely contradicted all his military training. 6 Marines had stormed his position under devastating machine gun fire. 3 fell immediately, but the others continued advancing relentlessly. When Japanese defenders unleashed a grenade barrage, one Marine deliberately absorbed the blast with his own body to shield his squad, then continued fighting with catastrophic injuries until he physically could no longer hold his weapon. The surviving Marines captured the position within minutes. This scene unfolded across Iwo Jima, where 21,000 Japanese defenders occupied an elaborate network of 18 kilometers of tunnels and fortifications, having been promised they faced soft American troops who would break under determined resistance. Instead, they encountered a fighting force that would shatter every military assessment Imperial Japanese Army strategists had made about their enemies. The terrible mathematics of this miscalculation were being written not in strategic plans, but in the brutal reality of close-quarters combat that would ultimately leave 26,000 Marines as casualties in just 36 days. The collapse of Japanese confidence in their military assumptions had actually begun years earlier at Guadalcanal in the Solomon Islands on August 7, 1942, where Corporal Hideo Takahashi, a veteran of the China campaign where Japanese forces had seemed invincible, wrote in his diary after the first week of fighting, "The Americans who landed are different from any enemy we have faced. They do not retreat when surrounded. They do not surrender when their position becomes hopeless. Most disturbing, they fight at night as if darkness gives them strength rather than fear." Guadalcanal represented Japan's first defensive battle in the Pacific, and the Imperial Japanese Army expected an easy victory over what they believed were inexperienced American forces. The 1st Marine Division that came ashore numbered just over 16,000 men, and Japanese military intelligence had described Marines as elite troops, but still products of a soft democratic society that valued individual comfort over collective sacrifice. Within days, every assumption proved catastrophically wrong, as demonstrated when Lieutenant Shigeru Fukudome commanded a reinforced company ordered to retake Henderson Field on the night of August 20th. His unit of 200 men had previously defeated Chinese divisions 3 times their size and advanced in textbook fashion, confident that Americans would panic in darkness. But instead, the Marines waited in carefully prepared positions with interlocking fields of fire, turning Fukudome's company advance into a deadly killing ground. What happened next defied all Japanese tactical doctrine, as the Marines immediately counterattacked into the darkness using automatic weapons with devastating precision rather than fortifying and defending their positions. Fukudome's diary, recovered after his death 3 days later, recorded his shock. "They attacked us in the night. We are the ones who attack at night. They moved through jungle we considered impenetrable. They killed in silence, then vanished." By dawn, only 90 men remained from his original company of 200, while the Americans had suffered just 12 casualties. This pattern repeated across Guadalcanal as Japanese forces, accustomed to enemies who held positions until physically overrun, then fought hand-to-hand with bayonets, knives, and fists. Sergeant Kenji Matsumoto, who survived 4 months on Guadalcanal before evacuation, wrote in a letter later intercepted by American intelligence, "We were taught the Americans are individualistic, that they will not sacrifice for their comrades. This is false. I watched a Marine machine gunner continue firing with both legs shattered until Japanese infantry killed him at arm's length. His assistant immediately took the weapon and continued firing. We lost 40 men to that position." The Marine training that created such soldiers baffled Japanese military analysts, and Private Yamamoto, who would later face Marines on Iwo Jima, first learned about them during intelligence briefings in 1943, where the instructor, a staff officer who had interrogated captured Marines, seemed genuinely disturbed as he explained. The American Marines undergo training that would be considered criminal abuse in any civilized army. They are broken down mentally and physically, then rebuilt into something that barely resembles the soft civilians who entered. They are taught to view death in combat as honorable, to never surrender, to fight until physically incapable. This sounds familiar, yes. They have copied our Bushido, but added something we did not anticipate: American industrial capacity. This combination proved devastating as Japanese soldiers trained in the code of Bushido expected death before dishonor, but fought with increasingly inferior equipment, while Marines underwent training nearly as harsh as Japanese soldiers, yet landed with overwhelming firepower that made Japanese positions untenable. A reality demonstrated with terrible clarity at Tarawa Atoll on November 20th, 1943, where Rear Admiral Keiji Shibasaki commanded 4,500 defenders in fortifications considered impregnable, only to have the 2nd Marine Division prove him wrong in 76 hours, with Private First Class Tadashi Ogawa, one of only 17 Japanese survivors, telling interrogators what he witnessed. The first wave was massacred in the water. We killed hundreds. More craft arrived. The second wave died on the beach. More came. The third wave reached our positions with flamethrowers. They did not stop until we were dead, or they were. The mathematics were brutally simple. Nearly 1,000 Marines died on Tarawa in 76 hours, demonstrating they would take any objective regardless of cost. And documents captured on Saipan in 1944 revealed Japanese intelligence reports describing Marines as shock troops displaying fanatical devotion to objectives, who refuse orders to retreat and will counterattack even when tactically disadvantaged, and whose casualties inflicted do not degrade unit effectiveness until the unit is completely destroyed. A classification emerging from systematic study, as explained by Captain Yoshio Kobayashi, who survived Guadalcanal and provided detailed comparisons. American Army infantry tactics are sound and conventional. The Marines operate differently. They advance aggressively regardless of casualties. They accept casualty rates that would cause any rational commander to halt. This is unprecedented. Instead of finding exhausted troops with dwindling supplies, as Japanese forces would have experienced after 3 days of intense combat, Second Lieutenant Toshio Yamamoto and his patrol witnessed a scene that revealed the fundamental imbalance in their war against the Marines. American positions featured Marines eating hot meals, receiving continuous ammunition resupply via trucks, with fully equipped medical tents treating wounded soldiers, and designated rest areas where combat units rotated systematically off the front lines. Their supply depots contained more ammunition than his entire regiment possessed, supported by mobile kitchens preparing fresh food, portable shower facilities, and laundry units operating just behind the combat zone. They were fighting the Pacific War's most intense battles while living better than Japanese troops did in garrison conditions. This logistical reality demonstrated the impossibility of defeating them, as Marines would never exhaust their food, ammunition, medical resources, or replacement personnel, while Japanese defenders inevitably would. The relentless American supply chain created a form of attrition warfare that ultimately favored Marines despite higher initial casualties, since Japanese forces fought from fixed positions with finite supplies and no reinforcement capability. Every casualty proved permanent, every expended round of ammunition irreplaceable, while Marines operated from expanding beachheads with daily maritime and aerial resupply, casualty evacuation systems, and virtually unlimited ammunition reserves. The longer any engagement continued, the weaker Japanese defenders became, while Marine capabilities grew stronger. A dynamic decisively demonstrated at Peleliu, where Colonel Kunio Nakagawa's defense lasted from September 15th to November 27th as the 1st Marine Division, despite suffering such heavy casualties that it required replacement by the 81st Infantry Division in October, continued operations through a 2nd Marine Division until Army units ultimately relieved them. A battle Japanese planners expected to conclude within 1 week extended for 11 weeks, inflicting over 10,000 American casualties. Yet the Americans could absorb these losses and persist in their attacks, while Japanese forces could not sustain such defense costs across every island. This unsustainable arithmetic became starkly clear to Japanese military leadership by mid-1944, with intelligence summaries distributed to garrison commanders explicitly acknowledging that Marines could not be stopped, only delayed, as evidenced by a document captured on Tinian that provided tactical guidance revealing complete abandonment of victory expectations. When defending against Marine assault, do not expect to hold positions indefinitely. The objective is to delay the American advance sufficiently to enable other strategic objectives. Each day of resistance is valuable. Each Marine killed or wounded is valuable. But understand that the position will fall. Prepare accordingly. Stock positions with maximum ammunition.